Hello everybody, welcome back to Steph's Movies and Music. I am of course your host, Steph. Today we are going to talk about George Thorogood and his most recent concert in St. Louis, Missouri. This is going to be a review from that concert. We're going to talk about not only how he sounded on vocals, but also his guitar playing. I'll mention a little bit about the rest of the band as well. And we're also going to talk about the set list for the evening. And as always, I will be showing footage from the concert later on in the video. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with how he sounded on vocals. Of course, Grandma called me. Now without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with how he sounded on vocals. First and foremost, I think that his voice has definitely changed over the years, which is expected. He is 75 years old, and that's just a normal thing that happens throughout our lives. Whether you're singing or not, your voice just changes. And in the case of George Thorogood, he doesn't have that scratchiness that he's really known for, the kind of deeper, more grittier kind of voice. He doesn't really sound like that anymore, but to be honest, I don't really miss it. He gets through his songs just fine. He still sounds really good. It's just, he's without the raspiness now. And I felt like that was important to mention, that his voice has changed throughout the years. And it doesn't sound bad. He doesn't even sound old. He looks old, but he doesn't sound old at all. And he sang all the lyrics right. He didn't make anything up. He got through the show just fine. Now moving on to his guitar playing, and for no reason at all, I really don't know why I was concerned about this, but I thought he might struggle with it a little bit. He got through it all okay. All of the guitar parts sounded the way that they are supposed to. Each one was distinguishable. You had I Drink Alone, one bourbon, one scotch, and one beer. Of course, Bad to the Bone. He's got many signature riffs, and all of them sounded great. Once again, I'm not exactly sure why I was concerned about that, but he proved me wrong, so that's good. I'm really glad that he has not lost his ability to play or sing at all, so he sounds great. Now, I wanted to mention the rest of his band. Of course, collectively, they are all known as George Thorogood and the Destroyers. Now, of course, you have George Thorogood, who started the band back in 1973, but you also have Jeff Simon on drums, and he's also been with them since 1973. And then the bass player, Billy Blau, I don't know how you pronounce his last name, but he joined in 1976. And then furthermore, Jim Suhler is on, I guess, rhythm guitar, and he joined in 1999. And then Buddy Leach on saxophone and also piano sometimes. He joined in 2003. So they have a lot of longtime members still left in the band, and so that also adds to the viability. Now, before we get to the set list, I want to mention one more thing about George Thorogood, mainly his persona that he has on stage. He's always had this tough guy, badass, almost like a rebel kind of personality, especially on stage. And, that makes complete sense. I mean, two of his biggest songs are Bad to the Bone and Born to be Bad. And he's still doing that same kind of act today. Kind of surprisingly, it still works at the age of 75. But what I really wanted to mention is that there's also a lot of sexual innuendos. And once again, that's something that is to be expected with George Thorogood. You go back and listen to the lyrics on a lot of his songs, and they're full of them. So once again, that makes sense, but for anybody thinking about taking their children to go see George Thorogood, I personally would advise against it. I actually went with my grandmother and her two friends, and so it was kind of weird, but once again, I knew what I was getting into, and Grandma didn't she didn't scoff or anything. I thought she might, but she didn't. She just kind of laughed about it and moved on. And, people who have seen him 1,000 times before are probably expecting him to be that way. So that's probably another reason why he still does it. Now we're going to talk about the set list. I'm going to talk about each and every song that he played. And once again, this is a pretty typical set list throughout the tour. He did switch out one song here, and I'll talk about it when we get that far. So the first song that he played was called Rock Party, and I believe that is off their 2006 album. I forget exactly what the album's called, but it came out in about 2006. It's a good song. And then he played Who Do You Love? Now you can see from that footage what I was talking about earlier. His voice, it doesn't really have the raspiness anymore. It's just, he just kind of sings it, you know, and once again, it works completely fine for him. And then the third song he played was called Mama Talk to Your Daughter. And then the next one after that was I Drink Alone. And right here is where I wanted to bring up another thing. He kind of changes the phrasing on some of the songs during I Drink Alone when he goes, yeah, nobody else. He doesn't really do the whole big long yeah. I didn't really care, it's just something that I noticed and I figured I'd mention it to you guys. And then he played another song called House Rent Blues, and you know, he made it all St. Louis-ified because that's where the concert was, and he referenced a lot of different St. Louis things, like he mentioned Chuck Berry and, you know, a bunch of things. And so I thought that was cool that he kind of, and I'm sure he does that for every single city that he goes to, probably, especially the big ones. And I think that's really a clever way to like interact with the audience. I always kind of admired that about him, that he found ways to kind of, you know, talk to the audience without really talking to them, and also just making them feel, I guess, more at home, I guess, would be the best way to put it. And then as he was playing House Rent Blues, it kind of morphed into one bourbon, one scotch, and one beer. And then from there, he played a song called Cocaine Blues, which, of course, that completely sounds like a song that he would sing. Then they had an instrumental jam with just the drummer, the bass player, and the other guitarist. And then when he came back, he played Gear Jammer. And then he played Get a Haircut, which is another big song for him. And Gear Jammer, you know, a lot of these songs I haven't really been mentioning, like the charts or anything like that. George Thorogood was not a top 40 artist at all. He had absolutely no top 40 hits as far as the Billboard Hot 100 goes. He had some stuff on, I believe, mainstream rock and also just rock charts. And then after Get a Haircut, he played Bad to the Bone. Hey, post-production me here. There's actually something that I wanted to mention back when I was still filming, but I totally forgot to. When he was performing Bad to the Bone, he actually subbed out a phrase. You know the part where he goes, I'll make a old woman blush and a young girl squeal? Well, he subbed that last part out for St. Louis girl squeal. And yeah, I'd say that's probably a good thing that he swapped that out, because, I mean, I know he's not actually talking about a young girl, but, I mean, it just sounds a lot better. That particular lyric has not aged very well in the year 2025. So it's a good thing that he swapped that out. And then all the women with their AARP cards were like, oh my god! And I'm in the corner going, well, anyway, that was it. And then after Bad to the Bone, he sang a song called Gloria, which I don't know what album that was on, but when I first was looking at the set list before I went to the concert, and I saw that he was going to sing a song called Gloria, the first thing that leapt into my head was, of course, the Laura Branigan song, and I knew it wasn't going to be that one, but that's just, you know, once I saw that, that's just all I could think about. And then according to this set list, the next one after that was Madison Blues. But that's not the case for the St. Louis show. He actually played Moving On Over in the St. Louis show, which is another pretty big song for him. And then his closing song was Born to Be Bad. something to say. It was only 13 songs in the set list as a whole, and I feel like that's a little short. I feel like he could have played maybe 2 more. But I mean, you know, 13 songs I guess was pretty adequate. I paid $70, so I guess if you did the math there, it's, how much is that? Like $5 a song or something like that? That's not bad. And so here's the question: do I recommend seeing George Thorogood? Yeah, I do. Once again, if you're of age, then yes, I think you should go see George Thorogood. He still puts on a great show, especially for his age. I mean, he's still pretty much hitting on all cylinders. And the band sounds great too, and I can't really think of any good reason not to go see George Thorogood, other than if you're still 12 years old, in which case you probably don't even know who George Thorogood is, first of all, and second of all, he's going to be talking about stuff that 12-year-olds probably shouldn't be hearing about. And that's literally it. That's the only reason why I could think of why you should not go to George Thorogood. I thought it was a great show, and so did my grandma, and so did both of her friends. They thought it was amazing. Real quickly at the end here, I'm going to talk about the t-shirt. I liked the concert more than the t-shirt. The t-shirt's not bad, it's just kind of basic. I still kind of like it. It was only $35, which, yes, I know, only $35. For a t-shirt, that's still pretty ridiculous. But for a concert t-shirt, that's actually kind of like the cheapest price that you can pay for a concert t-shirt. The back, I really like. I really like the back. I thought that was all just fine. What I would say is I would rather have this on the front, and then on the back just have a list of tour dates. Just like your typical tour shirt, you know what I mean? They didn't really have a t-shirt that was like your typical tour shirt though. None of them had any tour dates on them at all. They were all just sort of like this. They'd have George Thorogood on the front, written out, and then they'd have some thing on the back that would reference one of their songs. They had one for Bad to the Bone. I think they had one for I Drink Alone, and they had one for One Bourbon, One Scotch, and One Beer, which I guess are debatably probably his 3 biggest songs. Don't get me wrong, Born to Be Bad and Moving On Over were both pretty big, significant songs for him for sure. But I guess the big 3 were the other ones. And so they had a shirt kind of based on each of those, and once again, they were each $35. I got the one that I thought looked the best. So yeah, there you go. You got a review of the concert and as well as the t-shirt that I got from the concert. Alright guys, well I guess that's gonna be it. I spent a long time filming this, so I should probably wrap up now. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and of course subscribe. There are also super chats that you could do if you want to. I think just the least amount that you could do is $1. You could do $1, you could do $2, you could do $5, whatever you want to do. But you know what? You don't have to do any of that. Just watching the videos is what I really appreciate the most. So thanks for doing that, especially if you made it this far. And once again, don't forget to like and comment, please. Please, I'd love to hear your feedback. Yeah, I think that's it. So thanks again, guys. See you later. Seth signing out. Oh hey, thanks for sticking around. I guess real quickly I could talk about how I tried to get this signed by George Thorogood. We were pretty close to the stage, as you can see in the footage, but a couple times, both at the beginning of the show and at the very end of the show, I ran out. I got really close to George at the very end. He came out a couple times, and I raised this up and a Sharpie up to him. And throughout the show, I would kind of just do this from my seat, just to get his attention. You know, I would have been happy if he acknowledged me. I mean, I'm happy either way. I don't really care either way. But, you know, I just thought it would be cool if he pointed at it and smiled, because I've done that before at other shows, and that's what happened. And, you know, it's always cool whenever that happens. I could tell he looked at it, but he never really acknowledged it. So I guess if any of you are thinking about doing the same thing with George Thorogood, good luck, and I hope it happens for you. It didn't happen for me, and obviously, as you can see, he did not sign it. not bashing the guy once again. He's doing his job. You know, I'm not trying to really distract him or anything. I just figured while I'm there, we're pretty close, I might as well try. But if you don't bring it, then you never know. You know what I mean? You'll never know what's going to happen because you don't have the album with you. So, yeah, I figured I might as well bring it, and I struck out. It didn't end up happening for me. But if you stuck around this long, I guess you like hearing my very soulful and smooth voice. It just sounds just like butter. Where was I going with this? I don't, what the f? Anyway, I guess what I'm trying to say is I figured you guys might actually be interested in knowing that, or maybe wondering that. Does George Thorogood sign autographs? I don't know if he really does. In my case, he didn't. I also asked the merch guys, and they said he doesn't really do any meet and greets or anything like that, so whatever. So yeah, I guess that's it for real this time. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Once again, super chats if you want to, and take care.